We can't deal with the desert Southwest without dealing with Pueblo pottery. The Southwest was, of course, known for this pottery, most of which is built through a coil method. So what they're doing is they're coiling the clay, and then they will smooth the exterior. Now, some modern techniques will use some form of spinning, lazy Susan. This is not throwing on the wheel. This is something very different. You simply take the coils, you lay down slip, and then you put a coil of clay or a roll of clay on top of the previous roll, and then you put on more slip and another roll. You probably did this in grade school or high school at some point. The exterior is going to be decorated, usually with abstract forms representing the various forces of nature as they see them. In a lot of societies, we see abstract forms, we see geometric forms, and a lot of these are geometric. For example, when you look at the triangles here, that's a very geometric form. But they are representative of different things. Here we get a sense of, for example, water flowing across the surface with those swirls intricate to that bowl or painted into that bowl. And these are going to be very important. They are representative. What they are doing is the same thing every other society does, which is we take something functional, in this case pottery, that they need to have to contain things, and they're going to add an aesthetic to it. That act of adding an aesthetic is a very human idea. We need to make things look beautiful. For example, why do you have a phone that's supposed to look very attractive when it doesn't need to? It could look like a brick, and it would work just fine, but we don't do that. Just like we see in every other society, from the Egyptians to the Chinese to the Europeans, we are always beautifying those things that we need to use. By the way, when you're dealing with this pottery, you oftentimes will see these black pots. Those are from the 20th century. Those are a 20th century creation that first became popular in the 1920s due to the Art Deco movement, which will capture some of the aesthetic of these pots and use it later in Miami and throughout the United States, where you see Art Deco really start to take off. These black pots are brought by the early tourists and artists and celebrities who will move to the desert Southwest from places like Wisconsin. I'm talking Frank Lloyd Wright, Georgia O'Keeffe, many others. And they're going to come across these pieces. They're a fairly recent discovery at the time for the people in the desert Southwest. They're going to bring them back into quote-unquote society where they will be adopted. These, at least the aesthetic, will be adopted. Today, these are very pricey. Just be aware they aren't very